my name's Artemis, and here we are again to talk about drama in the furry fandom. I feel like we need another word for that, because drama's kind of been co-opted by people having just fallings out, and also massive strings of abuse just being outed into the public light, and people facing consequences. But god fucking damn, are we forever dealing with this shit? And, you know, we kind of forever will, because it's human nature at the end of the day. Oh, why? Michael Jackson reference. But it is a thing that we deal with. It is just a fucking piece of shit thing that we deal with, and I have some thoughts on the matter, and we're gonna fucking talk about it. So that's the intro. Now let's get to being angry. So our fandom is obviously very lovely and big and diverse and welcoming and opening, or at least we pretend it is, but we still push a lot of shit out. But whatever, that is generally what we all perceive it to be and want it to be and try to act like it actually is. And what that does is it makes it a very good place to hide if you are a toxic, abusive piece of shit. And that's kind of the problem that we've got. You see, we are not an environment that fosters this behavior, but we are an environment that gives you a smokescreen to hide behind if you are engaging in this kind of behavior. And that's not a bad thing. That's not something that we should change. It is just one of the things that these assholes will use and take advantage of. And it doesn't mean that we should take it away because of that. It just means that, yeah, we're going to notice that shit. It's going to happen. We are in a fandom where it is very easy to get a loyal fan base by being fluffy, by having a persona, even if it's a VR chat or a fursuit, whatever. People will fall in love with that character. People will fall in love with what you are putting out there on social media and will defend it, which is great because you can cherry pick what you put out there on social media and hide the bits of you that really need to be beaten into a pulp. And that means that it's very easy to almost sidestep the consequences when it turns out you've been acting like a real cunt. And when that's what we see, these abusers tend to have followers in the 4 to 5 digit range, maybe even higher. And when it does come out, there's always going to be people that defend them, because this is a community that very much values the character, very much values that. And ultimately, we don't want to believe that that person is as bad as it turns out they are. Nobody wants to believe that. You always want to believe the best of people you look up to. And it fucking hurts when it turns out it was all bullshit. But that is the situation that we run into. This is a good place to hide for these assholes. And we're doing a great job of outing them and showing them that they can't hide here for long. But at the end of the day, people are always going to fucking use it as that. It's not indicative. It's not a representation of who we are or what we're all about. It's just a side effect of who we are and what we're all about. So when it comes to being a toxic piece of shit and an abuser and all of this horrible stuff that we do see from time and time again, people tend to think that they can apologize and move on. Now, it's very difficult when you have somebody who obviously has a bit of a following and they've made themselves a bit of a fixture in this fandom and they've integrated themselves pretty well. You know who I'm talking about. There's been several of them. Because this is their livelihood, this is what they make their life out of. And then they're being told, nope, sorry, you don't get that anymore. But they don't want to accept that, obviously. So it becomes this weird sort of ticking clock of the apology where, you know, they will apologize and move on. They will take ownership of their faults and try to do better. And what they really mean is that they will step away for a few months and then come back and hope that, you know, time is an effective apology because their apology was not effective at all. They're not actually doing the work. They're just hoping that they have enough followers to be able to weather the storm. And we've seen that. We've fucking seen that. We've seen people bang to rights being toxic pieces of shit that were abusing animals. And yet because they have followers in the 6-figure range, there's still people defending them. There's still people that are just supporting them. It's a shitty world. It almost makes you think like, wow, if they can have that many followers and be defended for this kind of shit, how many followers do I need to be able to murder someone and get away with it? Because clearly there seems to be some sort of currency, hierarchy, barter system going on. And it's shitty, it really fucking is, but you have to sort of think when you look at these situations, because I do believe that people can genuinely change. I do believe that people make mistakes and can learn from them and can move on. I have to believe that, otherwise this whole life is fucking hopeless and pointless. But you have to look at their fucking intentions. Are they looking to accept the responsibility and do better, or are they looking to try and just hide from it? What does doing the work mean? What does success look like? What are your conditions for a successful apology and moving on? And more importantly, can they? Can they fucking move on from this? Is this something that we can forgive? Is this just someone being a piece of shit who's been a bit abusive and generally let like their popularity go to their head and they've treated people like shit? Because you can move on from that pretty well. Or is this someone that has committed gross acts just disgusting, abusive acts and a string of victims. Because, quite frankly, sorry, you don't get to come back from that shit. You just don't. I don't care that you had a big following. I don't care that people fell in love with you. They didn't. They fell in love with a lie that you put out into the world, okay? And you don't get to just step back into that lie because some time has passed. You, sir, can go fuck yourself. So one of the many things that happens when someone gets caught out for being a cunt is they decide to go down the whole, it's not my fault because of X, Y, and Z. And I honestly get really pissed off with that. Now, usually I try to stay out of this stuff. When drama goes down, I rarely know who the fuck the person was, and I see that as a good sign. It means I've curated my Twitter feed right, but I do see the excuses. I do see people saying like, oh, it's not my fault. I have depression. I have anxiety. My dad died. My dog stepped on a bee. I have autism. That one, I'm not saying as a joke. We have legitimately seen that, okay? And it makes me really fucking angry because what that does is, first of all, it's their attempt to try and refuse the accountability, the responsibility, trying to make out that they don't have full control over their actions because of these things, when so many of us share these conditions, share these issues that we deal with, and we don't fucking act like that. Okay, I've been a depressed, anxious bitch my entire fucking life, and I've never sexually assaulted someone. So clearly, it's not a prerequisite. Now, is it? But it's one of those things of like, oh, I wasn't thinking things through, I didn't understand things properly, and ultimately it devalues a lot of things. It devalues the significance of the impact these conditions have on people's lives. It devalues the victims of these assholes because they're trying to say like, well, you can't be too upset with me because it wasn't entirely my fault. Motherfucker, yes it was. And motherfucker, yes, we will be pissed off with you. You don't get to just drop an excuse and run away. Now, there is a difference between an explanation and an excuse. And if somebody is trying to explain the situation, saying like, oh, well, I didn't mean to do this, but because of this thing, this is what happened, but it's still my fault. Okay. If you're offering an explanation in good faith, then what you're offering is perspective and a means to try and move on in a meaningful way, and a means to better yourself, a means to offer people an insight into your thought process so that they can tell you, well, that's not right, and you need to not do that, so you can then go, right, good, thank you. But let's be honest, how many of these cunts do that? They're looking for an excuse, not an explanation. And if they can hit certain red buttons, then they believe they can get out of it. And they can't, because there's no excuse for being a piece of shit, okay? There's no excuse for physically assaulting someone, for going against someone's consent, for abusing animals. There's no excuse I'm going to accept for that, quite frankly. If you're a piece of shit, you're a piece of shit. And I'm sorry that your life has been hard, but all of our fucking lives have been hard, and you don't see us doing that shit now, do you? Shut the fuck up. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is perspective and keeping things in perspective. You see, drama is a very stupid word to me because I don't like it. Because it's kind of been used to talk about two friends that are having a bit of a fight, or somebody that's cheated and been caught, or somebody that's got a fucking grudge to wield against someone else and has decided to blow it up so that everyone's aware of. That word has also been used for people who are abusing animals, abusing people, abusing financial systems of cons, actual prosecutable crimes. We need a different word for these things, okay? We need to find some perspective there, because when you see, furry drama, you got no idea what the fuck you're supposed to be looking at. Is it just someone who is being a bit of a dick, or is it someone who should be doing, 5 to 10 in federal prison? So we need to keep things in perspective of what exactly people are blowing up about today. Obviously, personal issues are still going to hit people pretty hard, but they don't need to be treated in the same sense as physical assault. So, yeah, maybe a different word for that. But the whole keeping thing in perspective kind of goes in many different ways. You have to keep things in perspective that this fandom is a group of people, and people are the problem. It's not the fandom, it's people. You will see this in every walk of life. You will see this everywhere. You can't escape this. And it sucks. It really does. I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm not saying that at all, because this is an escape from all of that shit. And when the escape becomes something that you want to escape from, it's a big fucking problem, and it's very hard to deal with. But it isn't unique to us. It isn't something that is indicative of us alone. It is everywhere, and I'm not saying it makes it better that it happens everywhere, but people like to target the furry fandom as being a den of fucking perverts and shit. And when I look at this sort of shit, I'm like, no, this makes us just like everybody else. I don't like it. I don't want it. I don't ever want to see this shit happen again because this shit shouldn't be tolerated. But when it does, it's no different than anybody else. Is it, quite frankly? Any other social group or organized religion has these fucking problems, so you need to keep things in perspective with that as well. And another final point with perspective is how it relates to you and how it reflects on you. When we take on board such an importance of the fandom itself, and it's so significant to us in our life, it's so easy to feel like we are attached to it, and our sense of worth and who we are as a person is also attached to it. So when something damages the fandom, it's easy to think it's damaging us, and that's just not the case, okay? You can't bear the responsibilities of all the horrible shit going on in the world. It just isn't fair on you, and it isn't right, and you shouldn't be doing it anyway. Sometimes shit happens. And it's not a reflection on you because you are part of this fandom. It doesn't degrade all of the good stuff that happens in this fandom. It just doesn't. Okay? We still overcome that shit. We still push these people out. We hold people accountable. And that's something we will always continue to do when this stuff inevitably happens again. So keep things in perspective that it's not the end of the fandom, it's not the end of your enjoyment of it. As I've said before, you need to learn how to hate the fandom before you can truly love it. So if anything, this stuff is helping you learn to appreciate what exactly it is about this fandom that you like. Not that I'm trying to spin it into some positive, because this shit is fucked and we shouldn't be seeing it anymore, but there you go. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you did enjoy this video, or enjoy it as best you can. It's a video about drama in the fandom. I shouldn't be able to make this. It shouldn't be a problem. It shouldn't be an issue that needs talking about. But hey, look, it is, and I have, and we did. So yeah, it's something that we were always going to deal with. We're always going to deal with it. There's always going to be something going on. And it's shitty, because it does sort of make you think sometimes, like, I don't typically engage with a lot of creators or a lot of people, because I'm a very insular person anyway. I operate in a bubble in this fucking country. But it's also, like, what happens if I really like a creator and it turns out that they're just putting out a lie, a character, and they're actually a piece of shit? Because how many times have we seen that? Fuck, it's fucking difficult. It's not, I don't like it. And I feel like a lot of us are dealing with this issue and we have a lot to say about drama. And therefore I made a video about it, because this is a big part of the fandom, and it's one of the many things you're just going to need to get used to if you're going to be here, because it will come up. And it will always keep coming up. And it's a good thing that it does. I would much rather we keep getting these people outed and removed from our communities than it all goes on in secret behind closed doors. I want to know so that we can push the fuckers out and we can enrich this space and make it a less welcoming space for these kinds of people. It's just not nice work when you see it all the time, but I've got to believe it's in service of something better, and that's a better community that's safer for all of us. So, paws crossed, that's what we get. But thank you for watching. There's probably been some graphics flashing up about ways that you can support me. I've probably sped them up a bit because I've been talking for a while, but also it's a serious video, and it's kind of weird that I'm just, you know, bookending that with, hey, look at my feet, look at my merch, pay me money. But still, I would very much appreciate any support that you would like to throw my way. It really does mean the absolute world to me, and thank you very much for watching. I guess I'll see you all next week. Bye!